This is the Business of Apps podcast, bringing you actionable insights from the leaders of the global app industry and the world's fastest growing apps. You can find more app news, data and analysis over at businessofapps.com.
Welcome to Business of Apps podcast. On this show, we invite app industry professionals to cover various topics. We promise to do our best to keep it both insightful but brief. In this episode, we have Gessica Bicego, CMO at Paired. Gessica, welcome to the Business of Apps podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Terrific. Thank you for coming. All right. Every app marketer, every brand that launches a mobile app is focused, or should be, on its growth. We've decided to invite on the show somebody who has years and years of experience in app growth to talk about what we call 60 shades of app growth. But first, let's kick off with talking about you, Gessica. Tell us about your background in app marketing.
Of course, I love the name though. I've been working in mobile for the past 8 years and in marketing for the past 11 years. My background is more technical. I actually studied computer science, then I switched to marketing. Back when I was in Italy, I worked in brand and social. Then I came to Berlin, where I live now. I worked in performance marketing and I loved it. And then I decided to enter in the magic world of mobile. I was in Blinkist for a little bit more than 6 years. I was leading growth and performance marketing. Blinkist is a mobile app about learning, and that's where I discovered my passion for the mobile world and the mobile industry. Not just because it's like just an amazing, I think, just an amazing field, because you have to get the attention of the user while they are on the go, because that's, our phones is our device on the go, but also because I actually got to know so many amazing people in the industry. And I don't know, it feels like family at this point. So yeah, I really loved it. And I was there for a long time. And then in January, I decided to spice up things a bit. And I joined Paired as their CMO.
So switching the gears, as they say.
Yes, yeah, it was time.
Okay, yeah. Tell me about Paired. Just correct me if I'm wrong. Is it about pairing devices with Bluetooth, or it's more complicated?
It's a bit more complicated. It's actually about the most complicated thing in the world, that is love.
Gosh.
So completely different. So what we do at Paired is that we help couples in their relationship just to have like a healthier and happier relationship. There's so many apps out there that focus on getting people to know each other, finding the love of your life. But when Paired started, there was actually nothing about keeping this love of your life. It's already hard to find someone, but what about like taking care of that relationship? And that's what we do. So we are a mobile subscription app, active both on iOS and Android, that you use together with your partner. So the nice and more like interesting thing is that you have to actually pair it with your partner, and then you can answer everyday questions about your relationship to get to know each other better, or just like, even if you know each other 100%, but I don't believe, it's just like a nice way to feel connected. You have game, you have quizzes, and you also have content. So I don't know, I've been at Paired now for 3 months, and it's amazing. I just love the vertical we're in. I like that, similar to Blinkist, we are building a completely new vertical, and I love just the feedback from the user. Like, there was one morning where I received a feedback from this woman that was in a relationship for like 8 years, and she mentioned that through Paired, she was really able to reconnect with her partners, and I literally cried. So I love the idea that this is what we're doing. We're helping people falling in love with each other again and again. That's pretty romantic.
Right. And to me, it looks like somebody was thinking about, what if I apply mobile app retention to the most important thing in our life, love and being connected to each other. So one thing is to be able to get the download, to get the user, and the other thing to retain the user. One thing to be able to find your soulmate, and the other thing to be able to keep up with that soulmate for years and years and build healthy relationships, which is really not easy.
Oh my God, I
So,
love this.
and there's an app that can help you with that, like that almost forgotten slogan. There's an app for that. Yep, there's an app for that too.
Oh, oh my God,
So
I
yeah,
just, yes, of course. No, but I just love this. It's like paired is like, that's how we can target people on the mobile world. We can say like, you want to increase your retention rate in your relationship? Use paired.
yep, there you go.
I like that. Thank you. Thank you. You're a copywriter. I love it.
Okay, okay, just take notes. Okay, like you said, you spent 6 years of your life helping Blinkist to become a widely popular app that helps so many people around the world to learn new ideas, right? Then now you've joined forces with Paired. I believe you are in a good position to be able to compare your experiences of working with something well established, because over the years, obviously, Blinkist was and is a well-established app on the market. And on the other hand, you've been helping to nurture a new app, helping it to growth. So,
Mhm.
let's tell us about your experiences with both. How would you compare your experience working back then and now?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, although right now the stages of Blinkist and Pair are completely different, I think at the time where I joined Blinkist, maybe Blinkist was a little bit more like Paired. So at that time, the app was not well known. It was like they were building a new vertical. It is about like this learning on the go, learning about new ideas in a brief amount of time. And this was like a completely new thing. No one else was doing that. And yeah, that was the hard part, to be honest, of selling the product. You have to convince people that it was worth spending X amount of money on like getting these like key learnings from no fiction books. And I think similar at Paired, we have something like that is more or less the same. We need to convince people that it makes sense to spend X amount of money to interact and take care of your relationship. So I think that they are in a similar position, but I think that the difference is probably about the audience. So I feel that Blinkist being about learning, it was like with a more mature audience, if you want, also mainly male, predominantly male. Well, when it comes to Paired, the audience is completely different because first of all, I feel that it's more of a mass media product in the sense that everyone is in a relationship and everyone wants to be in a happy relationship.
Absolutely.
So
Right.
I think that the addressable market is much bigger. And also what we've seen so far is that the first touch point is usually like predominantly women. And so it's like a little bit different in that sense. When it comes to acquisition and marketing in general, the two companies or the two products are similar because they both rely a lot on paid acquisition. This is something actually that I want to change, especially at Paired, since I just started and I'm at the beginning and I still can change, is that
Right.
I want to put since the beginning an effort on brand marketing, because I feel, especially when it comes to relationship, it's so important that, it's about emotion, it's about stories. And so it's so important that we establish brand, like a strong brand, so that people remember and trust us. So that's the main difference that I see. Also based on the audience, I see like a big difference when it comes to the way of targeting people and also the channels where they're in. So for example, I mean, we're still like in a small scale, so we haven't really we did not really, let's say, test all the channels that are out there, and I'm really curious and I want to try them all, but I'm pretty sure that the channels that are going to work for Paired are going to be completely different from the ones that are going to go or work for Blinkist. For example, something like maybe TikTok could work that didn't work well when I tested it at Blinkist. Yeah, I think in general, like it's a pretty different environment, I would say.
All right. So moving on, looking at the old marketing channels you've just mentioned, TikTok, and looking at the old marketing channels that are available to every app marketer at this point, which one do you consider to be the most effective ones? I would agree. I would think probably it would make sense to I don't know, split up the channels between, what would you apply to a brand new app that only goes on the market versus something that is applicable to the app that is already established, is, user base, and you're just pouring your efforts to keep its user base growing.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that there's no such thing as like the best marketing channel. I think it really depends on the product that you are advertising. And maybe there's a channel that works for one app but doesn't work for the other. Now, there are still some, say, universal channels that we should all consider. And I mean, for example, paid social, Facebook mainly is one of them. And I would say that every, product, especially if it's like a B2C product that is not too much of a niche, should test out Facebook. But I also have the feeling that it works at the beginning, but I think once you reach a certain threshold, it's a little bit hard to really scale it be beyond, let's say, the budget. And so I think maybe for the well-established app, it makes sense to explore more channels, to have like more of a diversity of different channels. Something else that I mean, it's just something that I've been working on for many years. So it's one of my favorite channels, you would say, is probably paid content. So what is called Albert and Tabula, just because it's like I established that at Blinkist together with my team, of course. And I'm trying to do something similar with Paired, although I really realized that it worked for Blinkist mainly due to the amount of publishers on certain topics. I am not sure if it's going to work, for us, and I'm not sure it could work for any other brand or product. Something that I really believe in is definitely influencer marketing, and I think a lot of companies that start too late to do that. Influencer marketing is such a powerful tool, not just for acquisition, but also for brand awareness, because suddenly you put yourself close to big personalities, influencers, and just it tells a lot about your brand, and you have people explaining what you do and making it like more of a mainstream product. And for this reason, I think it should be something that everyone should do, both small companies and big companies. And I think as big companies, probably it makes sense to look into some more, let's say, expensive channels like TV or radio. Expensive not just because of the way you buy them, because you can still buy TV in a cheap way. But I think if you want to have a good TV spot, if you have a good radio spot, you need to spend some money. And so I just think that maybe something that you don't want to do in an early stage. And then let me think about some other channels. Well, I mean, I love search, but I was never. So let's say that I have this passion of working for products, mobile products that are building something new. And so the issue is that then people are not really looking for what you do because they don't even know that, something like that exists. And so the issue that I have with Blinkist and I have with Pair now is that, yes, you can spend on search, but it's only a limited amount of traffic that you're going to get from that. Definitely UAC and display, it's something important, although I was never able to make it work on a big scale. So I don't know, it's something maybe that I wouldn't start right away with a product. I would probably wait until I make Facebook successful. And then I would say the last thing, Apple search ads, just because we were talking about search. I mean, many years ago, they asked me about what I thought about Apple search ads. And I remember not being happy. And I think I'm still at that stage, in the sense that it feels like we are just stealing, to competitors, or not even competitors somehow, to people that are like not really related to us. That's the only way to get volume. And we just protect our brands. But yeah, there's not much to do there as well. So yeah, I would say these are the channels that I can think about. As you see, like, I think it really depends on the audience. It really depends on the product stage. It really depends on how much you're willing to bet and how much money you have on the bank account.
Right. So if we're talking about the product that is really new, not only the product new, but the concept behind the product is new.
Yeah.
So you're not expecting somebody who's looking for this stuff either via just Googling up or the app stores. So your efforts will be kind of wasted there if you will be trying to connect using search with audience which has no idea that your product exists, that it's actually possible, like in your case, that there's an app that can help you to improve your relationships. But on the other hand, influencer marketers, people who already have established audience, people who trust what they have to say, and this can be your way of introducing the product to this new audience. and then later on you can pick up on the paid acquisition. So kind of think about how well your product is, like how novel the concept behind the product.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so yeah, we mentioned TikTok briefly, but let's dive in a little bit. TikTok was launched back in June 2020. I still remember the article in TechCrunch that said that it's there. It was kind of obvious move on the TikTok's part. The monetization of the platform. We're sitting in late March 2022, and obviously the platform should mature somehow by this point. Do you have any idea of its efficiency, probably your own experience, or kind of a telltale experience from somebody else, case studies for other app marketers?
It's a good question. So I don't know much about TikTok. So TikTok for me is like this question mark platform. I open it like once a month. I get lost in it. I watch like 1,000 of videos about dogs usually, and I close it again and I forget about it. So I don't really understand it so much. And I found that a lot of the videos that they propose to me, so they're not probably aligned with what I love. I think that there's a lot of like young people dancing, and that's probably, I'm not really into that. Although I think that also they're trying to get better. So I see that now the recommendation engine that they have is getting a little bit better. So kudos to them. When it comes about like using them for acquisition, I tried in the past at Blinkist. I don't remember it working, and I don't know if maybe now they're doing it. So I really don't know. It's something definitely they were looking into at Paired. I just have the feeling that it's still a little bit, I don't know, it's not so ready, let's say, for big advertiser to invest in it. And I have the feeling that it's still more of an editorial or a content-based platform where you can do a lot where it comes to influencer marketing. So actually we collaborate with different content creators. But yeah, in terms of advertising, I've never seen it super successful unless it's about like, I know that for example, for dating apps, it can work. So definitely we're going to try it. We're not about dating, but like it's something similar. I never heard about someone building their brand or like their company, especially through TikTok. So I don't have experience with that. But when it comes to like being there from an editorial point of view, it definitely makes sense, especially because there are a lot of people talking about love and relationship. It just feels that maybe, and I mean, this is really personal, it feels that maybe more young people are on TikTok, while on Instagram, maybe they're all like older people. Older, I mean like 30, 40.
Yeah, comparatively older, right?
Yeah, exactly. But I have the feeling that maybe you go to TikTok if you want to have fun, and you want to go to Instagram if you want to get more information. So I don't know. I think it really depends on the kind of audience you want to reach there. But we will definitely gonna try it out.
Yeah, actually, what you're saying resonates with my thinking that there's not always a way to build the connection between your product and what kind of information people are expecting. Like on Instagram at this point, it's grown to that scale where it's hardly possible to pick up something that it's not being presented there, and people are like, yeah, you may encounter some, a very technical specific app which you will be having a hard time to present the Instagram, but for the most part, the bulk of the apps that are out there, you can actually promoting them on LinkedIn would make sense because there's an audience which you can reach out. With TikTok, these two camps, people are talking about, forget about for kids only, they're old generation of this platform. But, there's such a thing as a perception on a bigger scale. For the most people, TikTok's still for the younger generation. Yeah, there is a significant part of people of millennial age group or older, but the bulk, the mainstream on TikTok, still younger folks. So stuff that is relevant to them, you can operate in that area. Outside of that area, you will be wasting your money. You will not be welcome.
Yeah. Also, like, I think, I mean, again, I open TikTok once a month, so probably I'm not an expert on this channel. But what I notice is that there are some brands that appear there, but they're totally not ready for TikTok, or they approach TikTok like it's Instagram, and you can see it right away because it's like, it looks like, I don't know, it's just boring. It's just boring content. I think if you are there, you just need to like, it's almost like you have to dress yourself up with TikTok. So you
Mhm.
need to use kind of a different tone of voice, different images, different way to edit videos to make it more fun and interact more with the audience. And a
Exactly.
lot of brands probably they cannot do it because they're like, oh, we have a strong branding, we cannot be like that. But well, if you are there, you cannot be boring. You need to get the attention of people. So yeah, that's what I noticed.
Great. Now, what are your thoughts about how Apple's ATT framework and recent Google's privacy sandbox have changed app marketing? What is your assessment of their impact?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, it's like, I mean, everyone is talking about that, I guess. For me, it was a bit weird because I went on maternity leave in March or February last year, and I remember joining back this January and finding
Hmm.
about like everything that has changed. And I mean, I knew that this thing was happening. We were all talking before. We were all preparing. My entire team has been studying for months about like this change and what that would mean for the campaigns. But I think, yeah, until the moment came, like everyone was like, yeah,
Exactly.
we'll figure it out.
You're going to
And
be fine, right?
yeah, exactly. And I think when I started, it was so funny because I remember being in the room with with the founder of Baird, and I'm like, okay, can you get me this data? And he's like, no, you don't have this data anymore. What do you mean you don't have this data anymore? Like I almost forgot about that. But yeah, I mean, of course, it makes everything a bit more complicated. And I think as a user perspective, I mean, I really, value that these companies are giving more power to the user and there's more like privacy. From a marketeer point of view, it's a shame, right? Not to have all this data at your disposal. But at the same time, I think, it was a good kind of shake in the app mobile industry because a lot of players like that maybe has been there for like ages, they didn't know exactly how to react, and maybe other players were able actually to use this to spend even more. I give the example of Fair just because like I recently joined. In our case, we were actually able to keep spending in the usual channels. For example, on Facebook, we were never really dependent on lookalikes audiences. And so in that case, it didn't have like a huge impact when it comes to targeting. Of course, we had to make some changes in the way we manage our campaigns, in the bidding system, but from a targeting point of view, nothing really changed. But I know that like a lot of other players, they have difficulties because they were only targeting lookalike, and suddenly lookalikes are not working because Facebook doesn't have enough data to really bring qualified audience. So again, I think it was good because it just made things new. And if you were like fast enough, and if you have the willingness to like try new things, it was actually an opportunity kind of like to do marketing in a different way. So again, I'm not worried, and I think that we, from a data point of view, all of us, we are raising the bar and we're trying like to get a
Hmm.
better system to understand if something is working or not. Also, I mean, probably you've heard about this, but like recently I've heard a lot of marketeers talking about brand or like brand performance. And when you talk about like brand marketing, it's really hard to measure, especially if you do like brand awareness campaign. It's always a bit hard to measure the impact right away of certain campaigns. I think that, ATT moved us back on looking at the overall spend and the overall revenue coming from a product rather than like the specific campaign that single created. So it moved away from the details in order for us to look at the big picture. And I think that is like super good and really aligned with this attention to brand and brand awareness that we see in the market. So yeah, overall, not too bad.
Right. So if you were relying on lookalike and that was your kind of one of the features of Facebook ads that kind of relaxed you overall because you were relying on a huge amount of data that Facebook was able to provide you, and probably at some point you were less concentrated, less innovative in how we can find more users more efficiently. Now we can kind of back to the drawing board and get back to the basics. How do you connect your brand? What's the message? who are the people who are connecting your brand with? How do you like what's in your brand for these people? How it's always it's always a good idea not to rely on a big platform for the performance of your campaign solely, relying on okay, this is a big platform, I should just be in the mercy of what's going to be next. Well, if it's a great feature, that's awesome. That was the lookalike for a while. It was great. Nobody was looking at the feature from the other angle. Nobody was trying to. Nobody thought that there's a flip side from that coin, but there was, and there is. So
Absolutely.
yeah, definitely not doom and gloom. Definitely people can survive through these times, and you're just proving with Parrot in your own on your own company that that's doable, and you can still use Facebook ads just perfectly.
Exactly. I agree. And I also really agree with like not depending too much on what platform is something that, I mean, I always end up when I join a company seeing that some platforms are just spending more than the others. And that's usually my number one goal, to just like change that so you have like a more evenly distribution, because you just don't want to depend on one player because you never know what happens, right?
Exactly. Now, from the height of your 9+ years in digital marketing, what would you say to these crazy people who are crazy enough to go to app marketing today? What would be your message for them to be focused on? Probably some mistakes to avoid, or what is your message?
Run away. No, I mean, first of all, I would say just not avoid mistakes, because I mean, as you know, I also have a podcast about mistakes. I really think that mistakes is the way for us to learn. And it's normal, like you're going to make tons of them. That's okay. And I think, the budget that you're managing is not wasted if you're learning something. So that's the most important thing. From everything that you do, you should be able to learn something. But yeah, from a suggestion point of view, like what can I say? I think, I entered the mobile world just, only 6-7 years ago when I joined Blinkist.
Only, right.
Before that, yeah, exactly. So young. And I think before that, I had experience with mobile, but it was mainly focused on desktop. And of course, I had to study, I had to learn. And I remember the first thing that I did, it was like to just understand where were the experts on the mobile world. It was conferences, and I started to join all these conferences. And I was able to build a network of people, of really talented people that helped me so much to learn. My suggestion for people entering into this world is make sure that you have a good network around you. Go to conferences, talk to people, don't be shy, and really ask other people, because that's the best way to learn. I sometimes I have these like people that reach out to me and they're like, can you suggest like a class somewhere about like mobile marketing? But it's so hard to just, give people one class that can tell you everything. There's so much content out there, but I think the best way is just like learn from the people. So go to conferences, look at maybe like videos from conferences and try to grasp there some learnings. That would be my best advice. And when it comes to platform, I would say, what you say before, so you are giving them suggestion. Don't rely on just one channel. Make sure that you build kind of a symphony of different channels. Make sure that you don't depend too much on paid acquisition as well, because we know that it can be a trap, and at some point there's not enough, how do you say, you always need to think about what you can do beyond just the pure paid acquisition, because at a certain point your prices will start going up a lot and you need something else.
Right.
And I will say also the data side of it. I have a computer science degree, so I come from like a technical background, and I'm really lucky and thankful for that. Good choice. But I would say, especially now in this world, like you really cannot do anything if you're not like skilled on the data side. So make sure that you do. These are the classes that you can do. The classes about data, like how to build dashboards, how to analyze data, statistics, and so on and so forth. This is definitely something that will be useful for the future.
Right. So, as to the best of my knowledge, I cannot think of any curriculum in a university that would specifically teach people app marketing, even today.
Yeah.
So this is something you should learn on your own, but having a good background in data science is always helpful. And app marketing is not an exception. So we're not suggesting people specifically do mistakes, but if you do, Do not worry. Don't sweat on that. This is your
Yeah.
chance to learn something new. There's the only way you can avoid doing any mistakes, just sitting and doing nothing.
The app industry is vast. To navigate this space, you need a directory to look up suppliers and partners, and you need to know who are the best. Visit our marketplace directory at businessofapps.com/marketplace/podcast. And now, back to the show.
All right. Now let's switch the gears, and we're at the second part of the show where I get a chance to ask pretty much every guest on this show just a couple quick questions. So people who are listening to this show will be able to know my guest a little bit better. Here we go.
Nice.
Question number one. By the way, what is your smartphone in your pocket right now? What smartphone do you use? And have you been switching between iOS and Android, or one platform all the time?
iPhone 13, and I would say no. I was always.
Nice.
I mean, I had the usual Nokia 3310 at some point at the beginning, but I think I've been with Apple for like ages right now. I really enjoy that, and I think it would be hard actually to switch to another device at the moment.
I hear you. Now imagine for a split second, you've left your smartphone at home. What would be the most missing feature for you when you're out of home?
Well, definitely Google Maps, because I'm really bad at these things, so I would get lost for sure. Beyond Google Maps, I would say everything that is related to content. So I love audio, for sure, and so I think I would probably miss the podcast app, or maybe Audible as well. Just like the stuff that I use to entertain. And also Instagram. I spend tons of time on Instagram, though. Instagram stories are like my little secret.
Got you. All right. Before I let you go, just very, very final question, which is this.
Yeah.
How can people get in touch with you and get more information about what you do?
Of course, I think LinkedIn is the best way to reach out to me. Please just make sure that if you add me, you send me a note as well. Otherwise, I may just skip it. You can also listen to my podcast, Mobile Growth Nightmares with Andy Carvel, or you can also find me on Instagram. My nickname is Mini Glue, and if you ask me, I will. If you reach out to me, I'll tell you why I have this nickname.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. Thank you, Gessica. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
And that was Gessica Bicego, CMO at Paired. To listen to more episodes, subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, well, anywhere. Just Google for Business of Apps and you will be able to find us easily. And remember, we release episodes every Monday. So subscribe and you will be able to get new episodes on any device you're using to listen to a podcast. And please, remember, you can always leave us a review and comment on iTunes. It is highly appreciated. And just one more thing, all episodes will be available on businessofapps.com. Thank you for listening. See you next week. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Business of Apps podcast. For more, head on over to businessofapps.com.